All right, let's begin. Thank you all for coming. For those who don't know me, my name is Michael. I'm the original creator of Vendure. Today, I want to talk a little bit about how we think about building software at Vendure. I want to make the case for Vendure as the pragmatic commerce platform, because I think that pragmatism is one thing that makes Vendure special. Later on in the talk, then, I'm also going to tell you about some things that we're releasing today, Vendure 3.1. And I'll preview some exciting things we've got coming up in 2025 on our roadmap. This is dog food. There's a concept in product development, it was mentioned, touched on before by David, known as eating your own dog food, or dog fooding. It means to use your own products or services. Apparently, the origin of this was from an actual dog food manufacturer who, every year at their annual shareholder meeting, the president of the company would literally eat a can of their own dog food. ChatGPT didn't invent that one. That's a true fact. Trust me, bro. In 1980, the then president of Apple, Michael Scott, wrote this internal memo. You probably can't read it here, but I'll read out the important bit. It says, effective immediately, no more typewriters are to be purchased, leased, etc., etc. We believe the typewriter is obsolete. Let's prove it inside before we try and convince our customers. And I love this because not only is he saying that we all need to eat the dog food, he's also saying, do we really believe in what we're selling? Do we believe in what we're making? Okay, if so, prove it. And that's conviction. We're not just eating dog food because it's what we're supposed to do because we all work for the dog food company. No, we are eating the dog food because it's yummy. It tastes good. It's the best kind of food that there is. Does anyone know what this is? It's the future. It was the future earlier this year until it was released. This is called the Humane Pin. It is, or maybe I should say it was, an AI-powered personal assistant that was released earlier this year by the company Humane after they spent over 5 years and raised $240 million in its development. It was built by a veteran team of Apple managers who had worked previously on the iPhone and the iPad, and it promised to make the smartphone obsolete and bring the power of AI to our everyday lives. It sucked. It was terrible. About a week after the device came out to universally bad reviews, just like this one, there were already rumors flying around that the company's looking for a buyer. Now, nobody inside Humane could have possibly dared to write a memo like the Apple memo. Can you imagine? Effective immediately, no more smartphones, AI pin only. Didn't happen, did it? There's just no way. The dog food was not edible. So why all this talk about dog food? It's simple. I love to eat dog food. Since the very first commit to Vendure over 6 years ago, I've been eating my own dog food. I've talked about the origin story of Vendure a few times before, at the last conference we did last year and on a few videos you might have seen online. So I won't go into detail about it all, apart from to say that I built Vendure because I needed it. My family's company needed a new online shop, so I decided to build it. I decided to open source it, and that became Vendure. The way it would work was I would work on some features on Vendure Core, then I'd go and implement on top of those features to build the shop, and it made this really fast feedback loop where I would immediately find out whether or not the API was any good. Was it nice to work with? A couple of months ago, as covered by David in his talk, Vendure joined together with Elevantic, and I became the CTO of Elevantic. This means that now I get to eat more kinds of dog food. I get to eat enterprise dog food. Tastes a little bit different. But what it means is that now Vendure's development is informed by a much wider range of use cases, which is a very, very good thing for Vendure, and it's a good thing for all of you guys who's building on top of it. Beyond our direct dog fooding experience of building our own applications, we of course have feedback coming from the entire community. Over the years, from its humble beginnings as a kind of a scratch your own itch project, Vendure was discovered by developers from companies all over the world, from Fortune 500 companies like IBM and QVC to fast-growing startups like Swile and Munch. Woo. All of your feedback and contributions in the form of issues, pull requests, comments, interactions in Discord or Slack, if for any of those old enough to be come from our Slack channel back in the day. All of that contributed to making Vendure what it is today. And I think all of that feedback from internally and from externally from the community has resulted in Vendure being a very pragmatic commerce platform. And if there's one overriding quality for Vendure, I would say that pragmatism is the thing that I'm most proud of, the thing that I think makes it stand apart. So let's define what this word means. Pragmatic, dealing with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical considerations. I want to highlight two words there, practical and theoretical. If you eat your own dog food, of course, you want to try and make it tasty, because you've got to eat it. If you build your own platform, your own APIs, you tend to try and make it pleasant to use. Okay, imagine you're at your day job, you sit down, it's time to write a feature. You've read the Jira ticket, you kind of hope you understand it. A few things cross your mind, okay? And I want to do some interaction. I want you to raise your hand if you have this thought, okay? I'm going to show some things on the slide. Is this ever a consideration that you have when you're going to start a new ticket or a new task? Anyone? How long is it going to take? Okay, I'm glad the managers are like hoping that you're all thinking about this. Yeah, how long is it going to take? Most people think about that. Is it easy to do? Is it going to be easy? Yeah, of course. Is it likely to work? Who thinks about this? No? Okay, fine. No one cares whether it works. Will I find it frustrating? Is this a consideration? Yeah, okay. Will it be theoretically elegant? Okay, a few hands. Does it use my preferred design patterns? Okay, a few hands there. Is there some underlying abstraction I can identify? Yes, okay, good. So all of these are valid concerns to think about when you're going to write some software. The first few are kind of what I would call more practical concerns. The latter are more theoretical concerns. And I want to preface this with theory is fine and good, okay? It's going to seem like I'm bashing theory in a second. I don't want you to all just say YOLO and just like write whatever ChatGPT, just tab. No. Theory is good and we need theory, but the point I want to make in this section of the talk is that theory must defer to reality. When someone is practical-minded, we sometimes say that they are grounded, or that they have their feet on the ground, or they're down to earth. So what would the opposite of that be? Someone's overly theoretical. Where are they? They're in heaven, maybe they think they're in heaven. They're in the cloud, or the head in the clouds, or they're in space, right? If you take pure theoretical thinking to the extreme, you end up with what you could call an architecture astronaut. So this comes from a guy called Joel Spolsky, who was one of the founders of Stack Overflow, and Trello and many other things. In 2001, a very long time ago, he wrote this essay, "Don't Let Architecture Astronauts Scare You." Like most of Joel's writings, I don't know if whoever's familiar with his writings, but he's a fantastic writer. I want to quote a little bit from this article. He says, when you go up too far abstraction-wise, you run out of oxygen. Sometimes smart thinkers just don't know when to stop. And they create these absurd, all-encompassing, high-level pictures of the universe that are all good and fine, but don't actually mean anything at all. These are the people I call architecture astronauts. It's very hard to get them to write code or design programs because they won't stop thinking about architecture. They're astronauts because they're above the oxygen level. I don't know how they're breathing. They tend to work for really big companies that can afford to have lots of unproductive people with really advanced degrees that don't contribute to the bottom line. He's very opinionated. Again, theory must serve practice. You see this conflict almost between theory and practice all over the place, not just when building and designing software. All right. One of these guys can perfectly recite a complex series of movements with grace and elegance according to time-honored forms that have been handed down through generations. The other guy literally grew up wrestling with bears, and he will destroy you with his bare hands. Theory versus practice. All right, one of these guys has an advanced degree in English literature and can very learnedly expound to you about what makes a great book, whereas the other guy just writes great books. Anyone know what this is? Yeah, this is a picture of the Korean peninsula at night. One of these countries has a complete philosophical theory about how to bring about a utopian society in which everyone has what they need. The other one has a working power grid. Now this is topical because stuff's been happening in South Korea this week, but the electricity still works. I'm pretty sure of that. So I want to make the point, I'm not against architecture. I'm not against elegance. I'm not against design patterns. But theory must serve practice. Theory exists to make practice more effective. With theory alone, you can construct these very plausible sounding arguments that might be completely detached from reality, and it's very hard to know whether an idea is a good idea or not, because a lot of ideas kind of sound good. So the truest test of an idea is, does it work? Another thing we need to understand is purpose. We need to understand the goal of what we're doing. Purpose is like the arrow pointing the way forward. It gives direction to any theories that we have. So, what are we doing? What's our purpose? I'm gonna distill this down to like something that's brutally simple. Yeah? Are we doing that? Hopefully. Listen, I could talk your ear off about why Vendure makes heavy use of the strategy pattern. We could crack open the Gang of Four design patterns book and read a bit together, and we would all get something out of it. But we use the strategy pattern in Vendure because we're trying to help you guys to do this a bit more effectively. That's all. Sorry, that's all there is to it. Let's take a concrete example. Okay, and some of you might be familiar with this. A few years ago, a new hype cycle started around the idea of composable commerce. This, at the high level, this is the idea that a commerce application should be composed of a bunch of different parts, all working together. Each individual part would be like best in class, i.e. the best choice for a particular like quite fine-grained scope kind of job. And the resulting platform would be the composition of all these really great individual parts. So, for example, you'd have one service that manages inventory, one that deals with promotion logic, one that deals with order management, product search, content management, integration with back office systems, and so on. And these, at some point, all like joined together, orchestrated through the magic of APIs and headless. Theoretically, this sounds really good, right? Right? Sounds good. I mean, you get the best of everything. Who likes Avengers? Who likes the Marvel movies? A few people, okay. So I'm not really a big fan, but I was once on a plane and I watched the last Avengers movie by accident. And what was amazing was like that end scene where they fight Thanos and like literally everyone turns up, don't they? Like all these superheroes, like who's this guy? Who's this guy? Everyone comes in and they fight Thanos and they win. And so theoretically, like this is like this, like everyone's turns up. They're all the best, like this Spider-Man and whatever. You can tell I'm not a Marvel guy. They all fight Thanos and they win. This is kind of like that. You take the best content management system, the best order management system, the best promotion engine, put them together, and like, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? And if you didn't immediately think that this sounds like, some people looked a bit skeptical. Like, you looked a bit skeptical. If you don't immediately think it sounds good, well, there are multiple millions of dollars of marketing being spent to convince you that it is a good idea. Trusted institutions will tell you that you have to adopt this way of doing things. A whole industry sprang up around this architectural idea. Like, we even made sure that we have composable commerce on our landing page. But we need to understand that this whole thing was like a reaction to real problems that existed on older monolithic platforms. It was a reaction, okay, because the old way of doing things had also lots of problems, and this was a reaction to that. In a similar way to how communism was a reaction to abuse by the power elites of the past. Now, I'm not comparing composable commerce to North Korea. Don't get me wrong. It's not that bad. There are instances of composable projects that work. Unlike communism, there are working examples, right? This is not a political talk, but yeah, I don't think so. It does make sense in some cases. It definitely does. But there's this cliche, right, with senior engineers and consultants that whenever you ask them the question, what do they answer? It depends. It depends, right? And there's a reason for that, because the more experience you have, the more painfully aware you become of trade-offs and the fact that everything has trade-offs. And you need to understand that what the trade-offs are in order to make good decisions. And of course, this goes for how you build software, how you architect software, but it also goes for other things like how do you spend your time? What choices do you make in life? Do you buy this thing or that thing? Do you marry this person or that person, or no one? There's trade-offs, and this is a universal truth. It's not just a software thing. So when Gartner tells you you must adopt composable commerce, or when a multi-million-dollar marketing organization promotes it, they don't make those trade-offs explicit. You only discover them later, sometimes too late. Let's talk about trade-offs. What trade-offs do you have to make to benefit from having the best-in-class of everything, Avengers, Endgame, approach? Okay, first of all, it should be obvious, you've got a distributed system now. Who works on some kind of distributed system? Is it good? It's complex. It's complex. It's complex, definitely. That's the word. You have multiple dependencies. And I'm not talking about NPM dependencies. That's easy. You got package lock file. I'm talking about completely different systems. I'm talking about different companies with all the things that goes on with having a dependency as some external company, monitoring all these different systems. You've got lots of vendors now to manage. All their APIs are changing, different cadences, different release cycles, managing API secrets across all of these things. These are the things that they kind of like at first maybe think, it can't be too bad. But then when you work on a big project with like lots of these, and you've got a staging environment and a UAT environment and a production environment, each of one of these has different secrets, and you've got all these different vendors, it starts to add up. Oh yeah, a local dev's really complex as well, I guess. So again, for certain projects, these trade-offs will make sense. I mean, it does exist for a reason, and it's all about understanding the trade-offs. But I would say for a lot of projects, it's not necessarily the pragmatic choice. So what is a more pragmatic approach, in my opinion, and how do we balance these trade-offs in Vendure? Oh yeah, sorry, forgot network performance, obviously. Trade-offs, so how do we decide on what trade-offs to make? I would say that the trade-offs you make are derived from what you value. Again, this is not just in software. Some people value having a career more highly than starting a family, and that will inform the trade-offs that they make in their life at that particular time. Some people will value work-life balance more than slightly higher income, and that will guide what kind of job they apply for. So I'd like to share the things that we value at Vendure, and then hopefully you can understand the trade-offs that we make. This is actually, David covered some of these before. Pragmatism, this is the whole point of the talk. Simplicity, modularity, extensibility, and developer experience. So we have an architecture which, in some aspects, is monolithic. It's like a single node application that runs as one process. So in the way that we deploy and execute a Vendure application is monolithic. At the same time, it's modular in the way that you build it. So we have this modular monolith, or modulith. I didn't invent this phrase. It's already existed, but it kind of... But you know, it's a nice little phrase, and it does describe the architecture that we use. And this is what it looks like on an architectural level. You've got a monolithic application developed in a modular way, and the way that we do this is with our plugin system. There's lots of technical advantages to monolithic architecture. Performance, the ability to trace and debug issues, and code maintainability. By modularizing the internal architecture, it means that, for example, different members of the team or even different teams can work in a more or less isolated way on particular features. But at the end, it's brought together and executed in one monolith. And we still give the possibility to integrate with external systems when it makes sense. For example, we have an Elasticsearch integration if you want to have Elasticsearch power your search, or TypeSense, or if you have like some external tax system, we can accommodate that. But we don't default to that because I believe that it's not the pragmatic default. So to summarize this first part of the talk, we talked about the value of eating one's own dog food, how theory exists to serve practice, how values inform the trade-offs that we make, and therefore what are the trade-offs that we make in Vendure, and why do we do it? And all of this, I believe, results in Vendure being a pragmatic commerce platform. And I'm very happy that, at least I assume, that most of you share those general values, and that's why you're here today, and that's why you're building on top of Vendure. Okay, let's talk about something else. So last night, I stayed here late preparing for the conference. And then it was about, I think, 10:30. I was at home thinking, yep, okay, everything's all set up. I'm ready for the talk. And then I remembered that in my keynote, I'm talking about all the features that we've released today. And then I realized we've not released it yet. So it is released now. If you can go and look on NPM and you'll see very late last night we released Vendure version 3.1. And there's no blog post yet. There is a changelog on GitHub, but the blog post will come when I've got time to write it, next week. So this is a world exclusive for everyone here and for everyone here. I want to cover a few of the bigger features that we're releasing today. The rest of it you can read in the changelog. First of all, I want to talk about caching. We have a brand new caching layer. It's exposed by a service called a cache service. And this is absolutely not a theoretical feature. This is a feature that was built in response to lots of pain. Major performance issues in production informed the design of this feature. So I'm going to illustrate like the kind of thing that triggered the need for this feature. So we've got one production application, and there's about like 50 promotions, and most of those promotions are based on facet values. So that if a particular product or product variant has a particular facet value, then it's eligible for this promotion. So that means that whenever you add an item to an order, first of all, we're going to take the first promotion, and we're going to check, does any of the order lines have this set of facet values? Then we're going to check the second order line, the third order line, the fourth, and so on. And then we go to promotion B and do the same. And then the next promotion, and there's like 50 promotions, right? And some of the orders have like 100 order lines. So there's lots, the Vendure application is going to the database many times saying, what facet values does this product have? Okay, what about this one? What about this one? And it's doing that a lot of times. Eventually the database is saying, just leave me alone. And it was not easy to fix because you think, okay, well, just cache it, obviously. The problem is and this is, I think, pretty common with Vendure deployments, is that we run multi-instance. We have like multiple servers. We have multiple worker instances. And then you start to cache things, at least if you cache it in memory, then you have the problem that the other instance doesn't know about that cache, and then you've got stale data, and it's a hard problem. It's a really hard problem. And just to kind of drive home the logic of whenever we're going to the database saying, hey, does this product have these facet values? We're literally, this is the query from the source code, more or less. So we're fetching the product variant, and then we're asking it to join the products table, join the facet values on the products table, and join the facet values. Like for people who like have an intuitive understanding of what that means to the database, when you've got like tens of thousands of products and thousands of facet values, like, it's painful. It's painful. Yeah, you guys know, of course. And this is happening like a lot. And this is like we were talking like 30-second response times to like add something to the order, which is just ridiculous. Or even the database just saying nope and crashing out of memory. So this is the motivating use case for the caching feature. Yeah, of course, expensive. So the cache service exposes a really simple interface, and the design is so I looked at like Laravel, Symfony, Pimcore, Rails, and a bunch of other solutions. Like, how do they do caching, right? Because this is like, I'm not innovating anything here, right? This is such a solved problem. It's like it's basic, but we just didn't have a really good solution like in Vendure that you can use with the convenience of everything, all the other parts of Vendure. So I looked at these other frameworks. How do they do it? You've got a get, you've got a set, you've got a delete. Now we've got a special feature, which is you can tag your cache entries, and then you can invalidate by tag, which not everyone has that, and I think that's a really nice feature. It's pluggable, so like, we will ship with support for caching the stuff, storing the cache in the database, in Redis, but you can bring your own strategy like memcached or whatever you like. Something super performant in-memory solution. So then we get where are we? right here, so here's my service. This is in your own plugin code. You inject the cache service, and you can use it in exactly the way you would imagine that you would use a cache. Get, set, and there you go. Now, the cool thing is that this cache is shared. So when we're running in a multi-instance environment, say with a couple of servers, a couple of workers, they're all sharing the cache. That means that gives you one really nice property. As soon as you're sharing the cache, you can cache things for a lot longer, because you can basically cache things until you know for sure it's changed. And then when it changes, you invalidate the cache for everyone. And the next time one of the servers or instances needs that value, well, they know it's stale, so they've got to get it again. Put it back in the cache. I think we'll add a better slide for this. Hold on, with some colors. Yeah, so server number one will set the value in the cache. All the other instances, when they need the value, it's already been set. They didn't have to set it. It was set somewhere else. They don't care who set it, but they can use it. Like I say, you can then cache for a long time. Typically, you could use the event bus system. Let's say, with the example of the promotion with facet values, you can listen for any changes to product variants. Whenever a product variant changes and the facet values have changed, you just invalidate the cache for that product. But just that one product. So you can be very granular, and you can cache for a long time. And we've been using this in production now for like about 2 months in a pre-release, and it completely handled this problem. So like from like 30-second add to cart to just like, whatever you would expect for a normal, reasonable amount of time for adding to a cart. It completely solved it. This is what it looks like in practice. So we inject it right here. We check if the value exists in the cache. If so, return it. If not, do your expensive operation and cache it and return it. Nothing revolutionary going on here. Okay, next topic. Order interceptor. This is a brand new API that allows you to run code before any changes are made to an order. For example, before adding, updating, or removing any lines in an order. This has been something that's been requested for actually a long time. And it's finally here, which is really cool. It looks like this. When you send a mutation from the shop API, eventually it ends up in the order service, add item to order. At this point, if you have any order interceptors defined, we have a method called will add item to order. These will be executed, and they can say, okay, fine by me, add it to the order, or they can say, no, you can't add that to the order for some reason. For some reason, that's what you define. That's your logic. In this case, you can't add it to the order because the minimum order quantity is 5. So this is a super common use case that before it was kind of hard to solve. You would have to override all the mutations and put your own logic in there. Yeah, seeing some nodding going on. I've done this. I had to do this in one of my apps. And it doesn't scale well, because as soon as a couple of plugins have their own different criteria on what makes it okay to add to an order, it just doesn't work. You run into real complexity there. So some use cases. So for example, preventing certain products from being added to the order based on some criteria, like if it's already in another active order, then we can't add it. So some use cases like very, very dependent on current stock, right? So you can implement these very sophisticated controls over what can be added. Yeah, minimum and maximum quantities is a very typical example. You can even do things like this. So sometimes you have problems with automated systems like spamming orders into your system and then trying to check out, doing carding attacks and all this kind of thing. So we can even do something like we can use a captcha to prevent someone adding to the order programmatically through the API. They can only do it by going through the captcha system. Another example actually is things like bundled products. Product bundles where things have to be added as a bundle, and then you can't subsequently change the quantities or remove things from the bundle. They can only be added or removed as one bundle. So this unlocks that kind of use case as well. Here's an example of how it would look to implement like a minimum maximum constraint. So you could have custom fields on a product variant, minimum order quantity, maximum order quantity. inside your will add item to order method. You check the quantity, and you can reject it. So if we return like an error message, it will be rejected. If you return nothing, or void, or undefined, it lets it go through. We can compose them as well, so you can have multiple order intercept, as many as you like, defined as an array, and they will be executed in sequence. This allows you to keep this logic inside a plugin and compose the plugins together, and all of those rules will compose into your overall app. All right, the next one's a really cool one. Struct custom fields. Who's used custom fields before? Everyone, good. It's one of the first things you use, right? So in custom fields, we have lots of different data types you can add to your stuff, like strings and numbers and dates and booleans and relations. And now, so we had this problem come up, like I want to store like a key value stuff in there. I want to just like throw some key values like a JSON object. I just want a JSON object. And the solution has always been, okay, it's just store it as a string, and then you've got to stringify it, and then you've got to JSON parse it, which is okay, it kind of works. But we've long needed like some more native support for that, and that's what is coming now, or is here now with struct custom fields. Struct is, if you've not heard the term, it's used in other programming languages to mean like structured data, like basically kind of a key value type of data structure. This is what it looks like to define a struct custom field. Most of this should look familiar. The type is now struct, and when you define a struct, you have a new property called fields, which is an array. And inside the array of fields, you can define your struct fields. And these are actually very, very similar to custom fields. They've got a name, they've got a type, and so on. They're not exactly the same, but they support a lot of the same data types: strings, ints, floats, booleans, date times, and text. They support lists. They support validation. That's both in terms of things like regular expression matching for strings, min-max quantities for numbers, and even custom validation functions. That's all fully supported, just like with regular custom fields. You can even define your own custom UI components to render these struct fields in the UI. Some things that are not supported by struct fields are like relations, localized strings, permissions, and setting individual struct fields to public or private. You can, of course, apply all those to the overall custom field dimensions, but not at the individual level of these structs, because that's getting very complex at that point. So when I started working on this PR, literally the first comment was, can we nest structs inside structs? Like, you were all thinking it as well. I know it. You're all thinking it. Can I nest structs inside structs? And I kind of saw this, like, yeah, I can see why he's asking for that. I can see that you would need that. But then, we saw Armin's talk before, right? And then this kind of hard-won wisdom kicked in and said, no, do not support that. So we don't support it. And we're not going to support it because people will end up using it as the basis of their entire app. I just know it. So we don't support arbitrary nesting field. It's a key value store. That's what it's for. You get automatic UI controls in your admin UI. You don't have to do any of that yourself. It's all there. It's all selecting the right UI control depending on the data type. So lots of time saved. A bit more on custom fields. So you can extend lots of stuff in Vendure with custom fields. These are all the different types of entity that can be extended with custom fields. In version 3.1, you can now extend these with custom fields too. Which one was it? Stock level, okay. Where's the mic? I'll repeat it.
I just want to know if the admin UI also supports them.
I wish you didn't ask that question.
Sorry.
He asked whether the admin UI supports all these. Not yet. Not yet. It's supported in the server side, everything, but the admin UI, no, not yet. And I'll get to why that is in a second.
Anyone else anything while I'm holding the mic?
But yeah, so stock level is a big one for you guys, right? Okay, good. Another big one I think is that you can now define custom fields on session. And yeah, that's come up. Yeah, we've got a whole workaround, right? We've got like a huge workaround. all those hours wasted. All right. Oh well. You don't have to use the custom field. You can carry on using your solution. It's okay. It's been built now. Now, yeah, so custom fields on session is, I think, the big one in this because it unlocks a lot of possibilities. All right. There's a lot more to version 3.1. It's in the changelog. A blog post will follow after I've recovered from this week. But yeah, it's a really cool release. But now let's look to what else we have coming in 2025. Who recognizes, oh, there's claps already. Who recognizes this? Who likes Tailwind? Who hates Tailwind? Okay, we still got some haters. It's okay. I used to hate, I saw Tailwind, years ago. I saw the Tailwind syntax. I thought, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So stupid. But it's the best thing ever now. I went through that whole conversion. Anyway, for those who hate it, tough luck. It's coming. So we've got an admin UI refresh coming where we're going to, so at the moment we're using this UI library called Clarity, which is from VMware. Perfectly solid, it's good, but we're moving to Tailwind for all the styling. And we're going to do that in a backward compatible way. So it means all your admin UI extensions that you've built, they're not going to all look really bad and break, hopefully. 95%, okay. You can get a refund on the 5%. No. This is for the open source users only. Yeah, we're going to do it backwards compatible so you can kind of incrementally migrate to it, and then the next time you start writing UI components, you just do your copy-paste Tailwind magic, and it should all just work fine. Backwards compatible. At the same time, we're going to update the look and feel a little bit. We did that in version 2.1, I believe. Now is a year or so old. We had a big step forward, actually, from... Who's been using Vendure since like version 1 point something? Yeah, so it used to look like pretty bad. That's when I was in charge of designing it. With version 2.1, we had a whole design done for us by lean coders here in Vienna. And that was a huge step forward. It looks fantastic. We're going to take that to the next level and like polish it up even more. And we're looking at various options because, so has anyone used ShadCN UI for any projects? So this is like, what do you think? Do you like the experience? You just like copy paste stuff and it just all works. So we're looking at how we can bring this experience into Vendure UI development. There's a project called Spartan UI, which is basically an Angular port for ShadCN. We're in talks with the maintainers and we keep a close eye on it. It's currently, I think, alpha, beta. It's kind of in early stages. But anyway, we're looking towards this kind of workflow where it just makes your life easier. Yeah, the goal is to make UI customization easier and more powerful. Because I think at the moment, like when you're implementing custom features, you've got the CLI now, it's going to scaffold everything, it's going to do all your resolvers, and then you're like, okay, I've got to write UI now. Ah, shit. I mean, I'm the same. I'm the same. There's too much boilerplate, there's too much stuff. We're going to make it easier. I did the animations wrong. So right now you can write your UI in Angular, of course, because the underlying admin UI app is an Angular app. You can use all the Angular components in your own UI extensions. We also, at some point in the past year and a half, we added support for React. Limited support, it's not on par yet with Angular. But what if Everyone's getting some. I'm just going to let you guys stew for a bit now. What if? Who knows? Who's heard of Solid.js? No, don't worry. We're not migrating. Cool framework though, right? Who's heard of Svelte.js? Other cool framework. We've got a talk on that coming up later. We're not moving to Svelte.js. No. What if we just didn't have to think about UI frameworks at all? That's what we're planning. So what if, imagine a world where you could, in a world, like this is going to be the release video, in a world where you don't have to write Angular components, you don't have to write React components, you just say, I want to do a list view, right? I mean, like, not to disrespect anyone here, but and this goes from myself included, right? You define an entity. You do CRUD on the entity. You have a list view. You have a detail view. That's the job. That's it, isn't it? That's like 90% of the job. What if you could just say, look, I've got this entity, company. Here's the query that gets the company list. All right, make me a list view. These are the columns that I care about. This one should be sortable. This shouldn't be. All right, for this one, I want to use a specific component. Here's an Angular component. Here's a React component. That's what you tell ChatGPT, yeah. Exactly. And does it work?
If you train your own GPT, then yes.
All right. I'm not going to train my own GPT. Oh, yeah? Yeah, Vendure 3.2, it's just full AI. We just go all in on it. Yeah. Now this is the vision, right? This is I wanted to put one of these big sample things that you see on contracts just to make you realize that this is not the final form. This is just like an idea of how it should work. You say, I want a list view, these are the columns, this is what should be in there. Same for, I want a detail view. It can derive the fields, right? We can look at the GraphQL query. We know what fields should be there. It can generate all that stuff. We only need to add our own code when we want to customize anything, and that's rather the rare case. You don't need to do that very often. Where's my clicker? Oops. Let's go back. Yeah, this is coming in version 3. I don't know, version. You can look. There's a roadmap. There's a roadmap on GitHub, open source roadmap. It tells you when things are coming in which version. This is one of the next versions, maybe the next version. It's one of the things I'm really most excited about because it's going to save so much time. And the really cool thing is that it unlocks a lot of things. It means that internally, we can refactor things. We can add features to list views, to detail views. You don't have to do anything. You just get it for free when you get the next update. They're all in there. You don't have to go and change all your components and add all this stuff. No more boilerplate. We don't want that anymore. We want to just make your lives even easier. That's what we're here for. All right. Oh, that's features. That's features. Let's talk about community. Cheers. We have a really nice community, I think. We recently passed 200 contributors to the GitHub repo. I think we're at 203 right now. One of them is GitHub bot. Actually, one of our most prolific and productive contributors is not human. But even just humans alone, we're over 200, which is really great. This is a list of our top contributors. Two of them, the top two, are in this room right now. Kevin and Martijn. Earlier this year, we started a new initiative called the Open Source Community Team. So throughout the whole existence of Vendure, since the very first guy emailed me and said, where's the community? I said, we don't have one. I better start a Slack channel. Since those days, I've been like the community manager. And I've been, especially if you've been around for a couple of years, you probably know that I used to basically answer all the questions in Discord. But I can't do that anymore. I'm busy. I've got the Atlantic team to run and other things to do. It just becomes, at a certain scale, it becomes unsustainable. So I turned to the community and I asked for help, and lots of people stepped forward. And this is the open source community team. They are the most dedicated, the most active, and they help us out a lot with things like issue triage, documentation, moderating the Discord, and helping developers answering all those questions that are coming into Discord. So we have 8 people right here on the screen. We have 4 of them right here in this room. So can the members of the open source community team please stand up? That's 3. That's 3. One of them's not even watching my talk. He can see the live stream. Yeah, it's amazing. They're from all over the world, right? We've got 2 in the USA, 1 in Brazil, Netherlands, Germany, Kenya, Italy, and 4 of them are here. That's fantastic. So we've got a Discord. If you look on the lanyard, you got an address for the Discord. I think most of you said you were already on it. The Discord's really fun. I installed this bot where we can track how many messages people are posting. It's like an RPG. You can level up when you post more. Like you can see, I'm like some kind of grand wizard at the top. David's just below. But these are our top posters, our top contributors to the Discord. And who we got in this room? We've got Kevin. I think it's just Kevin. Daniel's probably on the live stream, right? I'm sure he's always like shit posting into the live stream the whole day. No doubt. But the Discord's fun, right? We've got this sport that we play. We've got this sport that we do. Like, as soon as you open a Discord and it's anything to do with e-commerce, you get lots of spammers. And they're mostly dropship spammers, or like, posting screenshots of the Shopify dashboard. Look how many thousands of dollars I made this week. I'm now willing to tutor just 2 of you. Just DM me, bro, and I will show you the way of how to make this passive income. And we get these guys all the time, but now we've got this sport. We set up this Discord bot that like has keywords on dropshipping and variations of dropshipping. So these guys turn up and they're like, I've got this amazing business opportunity. And then here's Kevin, for example. He's like, what's the business model? And then everyone's like waiting for them to say, that like Bart Simpson meme, and they're like, say the word. And then, of course, they always take the bait, and then they get auto-modded. Yeah, so the Discord's a lot of fun. Last week, every week on Discord, I do like a weekly summary and kind of chat with everyone and give them an update what we're doing. Last week I said, please nominate the top Discord members who like contribute the most helpful, or whatever they deserve recognition for what they do in the community. And there was lots of responses, and these are our top nominated Discord members. So I think some of them are watching, some of them are here. So round of applause, please. All right. And with that, that's the end of my talk today. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the day.